Years ago, when I started down this journey of looking at the performance practices at the company I was working at, I sat down with our CEO and I said, what are some things that you would want to see change? And I wasn't asking for the tactical things in our performance practices. I was looking for the sort of the theoretical ones. And he gave me 5 things. And one of the things that he said, which I was so happy to hear him say, was, I want our managers to be fully accountable for the hiring, assessing, developing, and rewarding of our employees. I'd never heard a leader say that. Now, it's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually do it, but that sort of gave me the platform to start designing a system that actually put the responsibility for team development into the hands of the business, to the manager, rather than it being an HR responsibility. If you think about all of the HR practices that happen in a company, so many of them are either actually owned by HR, or at least that's what everybody thinks they're owned by HR, and managers are being forced to do these things because HR said so. So that changed the way in which I started to think about our design for all of our HR practices. It's hard for managers to focus on those kinds of things. Really good managers, I think, believe that the best way to drive performance in an organization is through their teams. But a lot gets in the way. Business gets in the way. Time pressure gets in the way. Other constraints. Leaders who only focus on driving P&L rather than talking about how the team is doing and their effectiveness. And to be quite frank, our reward structures don't really support encouraging managers to focus on team development. They really support focusing managers to focus on the bottom line. So there's all these things that kind of get in the way of that. And if we don't fix those things, it's kind of ridiculous to be having this conversation and saying, well, managers are responsible for doing that. Why aren't they doing it? Let's build their capabilities. Until you create an organization that says, yes, it is a people manager's responsibility to do these things, and create some kind of balance between that and their responsibilities around P&L, it will never happen. And I think it's why it doesn't happen in most organizations. Push comes to shove, a manager will tell an employee, don't do that HR related thing, don't go to that class, I don't have time for a conversation about career, because something's burning in the business, and that's where the pressure is at that moment. Compensation programs, mostly bonus structures, don't change from individual contributor to first-time manager. They still focus on the same metrics, sadly. So I think we need to fix all that, and then we can start talking about, okay, well, how do you get managers to be able to do these things effectively? And I think you'd be surprised if we could change all that other stuff I'm talking about. I think managers would be coming to talent leaders and saying, how do I do this? I don't know how to have an effective feedback conversation with my employee. I don't know how to have a career discussion. How do I assess whether my team is well balanced? And how do I know where I'm going to have future need? And how do I develop my teams toward that? And how do I figure out if maybe I don't have the right team anymore and I've got to hire people externally? I think that happens with some good managers who believe that talent is crucial, but most get sucked into the business and don't have time, energy, and don't get rewarded for doing those things.